identity as persons. So there is one issue that's been hugging the headlines as expected, as usual. The issue of the chairman of the defunct, pension reform task team, Alhaji Abdurrashid Maina Owu, was said to have been reinstated into the Federal Civil Service. In fact, reinstated as a director. It was an assistant director when it was dismissed back then, but then this time he's back in the saddle, surreptitiously reinstated into office, and that has been generating a lot of backlash, really scandals, really, for this present government. Some people are saying, why is the government of the president Muhammadu Buhari, wearing scandals like sandals, saying it's like this one is one scandal too many? Just to give you an insight into what this really is, this man Abdurrashid Maina was dismissed for corruption. He was actually brought into as it were clearly against stable as regards pension reforms. He did lots of work that time uncovering corruption. Later on, he got himself involved in some of those corrupt acts to the tune of over 100 billion naira. He was declared wanted. The Senate committee investigating that particular action at that time wanted him to appear before it. He did not show up. I was declared wanted. He was eventually dismissed from service and he fled. Some reports claiming that he fled to the United Arab Emirates, and just around this time, Premium Times, an online newspaper, broke the news about some days back, saying Abdurrashid Maina is back in the saddle, posted to the Ministry of Interior, and then to be a director in the Department of Administration in charge of Human Resources. And many names have been thrown up in this particular scandal, including that of the Minister of Interior, General Abdurrahman Dambaza, retired, the Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami, and also some fingering the DG of the DSS, as well as the head of service, Oyo Winifred Itawal. We'll be looking at all of these. We'll be speaking to our guest that we have joining us here, a journalist, a publisher, a public affairs journalist, Mr. Emmanuel Moye. Thank you so much for joining us on Frank Talk this morning. Thank you. And also we'll be speaking, joining us live on the line, the Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Mr. Nathaniel Oke, will be speaking with us, and also Justice Olamide Oloyede will be joining us also to look at these issues, looking at the legal side to this matter, and also looking at the ethical and side to it as we assess the anti-corruption fight of Mr. President. Many people have said, well, these are put paid to that particular fight against corruption by President Muhammadu Buhari. Well, let's get started now. Mr. Moye, tell me your initial reactions when you got that particular news, just before we bring in Mr. Nathaniel, okay?
I wasn't very surprised, to say the truth, because nothing is beyond this administration right now. We've had a lot of embarrassments, but this was actually the height of it.
All right. Okay. Well, at this moment, we have Mr. Nathaniel Oke, a Senior Advocate of Nigeria, joining us live on the line here. Thank you so much for joining us on Frank Talk this morning, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Olanipekun.
Thank you so much. Well, tell me what you make of this particular scandal surrounding the recall of Alhaji Abdurrashid Maina, though the president, ordered that he be disengaged yesterday, he be dismissed from service, and other than investigation, a report to be submitted to his office. But then, just tell me, what were your initial reactions when you heard about this?
It is a national embarrassment because it was least expected. And it's a clear indication that the Office of the Attorney General of the Federation and EFCC are working at cross purposes. Instead of interdiction and arraignment, the man was promoted. On what basis? What was the basis of the promotion? When he left Nigeria about 2015, was he on sabbatical leave? That upon his re-emergence in the country now, he should not be deployed and promoted. As a matter of fact, I want to say that anti-graft war is also losing its steam, and prosecution of offenders appears to be sectional and political. And it is my personal observation that the presidential aides are not having common focus with the president as far as the issue of this anti-graft war is concerned.
Well, many have tried to exonerate Mr. President from this, saying, well, he did what was right yesterday in ordering the immediate sack of this particular fellow, Abdurrashid Maina. But some of us also said, well, isn't it unfortunate that the president seems not to have a hold on what is happening around him?
They are right. Especially the people who are saying that Mr. President is not actually having knowledge. But a situation of such a monumental magnitude should be brought to the attention even of Mr. President. The Attorney General of Federation is the law officer, the most senior law officer in the country. And when a situation like this arises and is confused, assuming it's a political issue, there is no reason why such a situation should not be brought to the knowledge of Mr. President. And that is why I said, and I'm still repeating it effectively, that they are not, the heads of Mr. President are not having common focus with him. If we would not necessarily consulting Mr. President on this issue, the law officers of the country, others should know what should be appropriately done under the circumstances that has arisen. But instead of doing the right thing, I think they have actually misfired because there is no cohesion between the office of the Minister of Interior, HOS, and the Attorney General of Federation.
But yesterday the HOS said that she is not aware that that letter never emanated from her office.
Yes. What I'm saying is that they acted in unison. No matter what, the office of the Attorney General of Federation where the letter emanated directed the HOS to reinstate him, and the same letter was not directed from the office of the HOS to the office of the Minister of Interior that the man should be reinstated, he should only be promoted, and the rest of his salary should be paid. Somebody who should be arranged alongside with others. As a matter of fact, apart from the legal implication of what happened, we should equally look at it from the moral point of view. Who are the beneficiaries of the money purportedly stolen by this man? 100 billion naira. And some people have been on the payroll as pensioners who have not been paid. Some have died. Some are living in abject poverty. And you are having properties here and there, and you say you are administering. As a matter of fact, the true position of things as at now is that anti-graft war has lost its fervor.
Well, you're a senior advocate of Nigeria. Tell me, I'm looking at this from a legal lens. The president yesterday ordered the immediate sack of Abdurrashid Maina, and some people are saying, well, the president does not have the powers to do so, that he can only fire his aides that he appointed, that actually, superintended over his recall. They're talking about the AGF and other people involved, but that by the laws of this land, it doesn't have the power to fire a civil servant. Is that correct?
It is a political reaction to an emergency situation. Political reaction. Because if they should set a particular body up now for the purpose of investigating what actually transpired, it will take some time. And people may not be willing and ready to at least be exercising patience for the purpose of waiting for the outcome of that committee or body that may be set up for the purpose of investigating. So I will say that it was an immediate political reaction of the president for the purpose of dousing tension.
But then, judging by our laws, the constitution many people, many Nigerians feel that the president, with the powers he has, can as well order that, so the person be fired. But some lawyers are saying, well, the president does not have the powers to fire Abdurrashid Maina.
Mr. President is having so many political powers that are not taken cognizance of under the law. There are procedures to be taken when a particular civil servant is to be dealt with, and procedurally, it is not the legal or official responsibility of Mr. President to just make a direct pronouncement like that. There are some people this man is working under who are having administrative power and directive power over, who should be able to organize, set up a particular body or committee, investigate, and make a final report. It may not eventually go to Mr. President, but a situation whereby directly, Mr. President, you are fired, I think is procedurally wrong.
And then, the position of the Attorney General of the Federation in this whole scandal, how do you see these affecting his office? He's supposed to be the main driver of the war against corruption in this administration, but he's been fingered in this and he's been fingered in others before now. What do you see? How tenable is his position going forward?
Mr. Olanipekun, how do you reconcile a situation whereby EFCC, as one of the anti-graft bodies in the country, is declaring a man wanted, and the office of the Attorney General is now writing a letter directing the office of the HOS for the purpose of restating the same man. The truth of the matter is that there is no cohesion, and a house that is divided against itself cannot really stand. They should have common purpose, common focus, working towards a common direction for the purpose of achieving a common end. But look at what has actually happened now. If you say by default national publication, we are looking for this man, anybody who knows his whereabouts should let us know. Then the Attorney General of Federation now said, go and report somewhere and be elevated. And what do you make out of that, Mr. Olanipekun? It's a very serious matter, and it's a national embarrassment. I must confess to you. And if things continue like this, within a very short span of time, people will no longer have confidence in this assumed anti-graft war.
Well, this man we're talking about was declared wanted at some point, by Interpol. And, when he got into country, you're a legal practitioner and you know how some of these things work. Many people have the opinion that if he's been outside of the country for a long time, declared wanted here in Nigeria, and then internationally, there should, have been some red flagged at the entry point, him coming into Nigeria. How did we overlook that? How did they not spot that?
There is every possibility of collusion in all this arrangement. If Interpol has been involved in this matter, they were genuinely interested. But the truth of the matter is that the country that declares an individual as being a wanted person has an equal role to play. If I say this is the person you are looking for and you turn your back, it's an indication, clear indication that you are no longer interested in the affairs of that individual. Even if Interpol directly hands over this man to the authority and they are no longer interested, what can they do? The Interpol has fulfilled its own condition. He has fulfilled his own responsibility in making the man available. And the question even arises, it would have been a different matter if the man sneaked into the country and he maintained a low profile, than a situation whereby you now say he should be reinstated. And it has become glaring that this man is already back in Nigeria. The law enforcement people are not doing anything about it. Instead of doing anything about it, they now say he should be redeployed and be elevated. As a matter of fact, I want to still repeat it. The whole thing is very messy, and it's a national embarrassment. Sincerely, and it would have been a different matter if we have not had situation like this before. We had previous situations like the case of Lawal, former head of what do you call it? And the truth of the matter is that there are still some other instances, and it appears, I want to say, that it's a sectional and political persecution. Do you understand the point I'm making, Mr. Olanipekun? Sectional and political. That if you are familiar, if you are close, if you are having influence, if you are ready to make certain compromises, then there is every possibility of you not being prosecuted. But if you're on the other side, or you are not in alignment, there is every possibility of you being prosecuted. And conclusively too, except along the journey of your prosecution, you can still say, okay, I'm now ready to do certain bits. That is the way I may be wrong, but that is the way I look at the whole matter.
All right. Well, thank you very much for speaking with us this morning, Mr. Nathaniel Oke, a senior advocate of Nigeria, joining us live on the line here on Frank Talk on Rave 91.7. We appreciate your time on the program, sir.
Thank you very much. I wish you well.
Thank you so much. All right. Thank you, sir. Well, Mr. Nathaniel Oke, SAN, joined us live on the line. We still have Mr. Emmanuel Monye here. Well, let me get back to you. This issue is very messy, very scandalous for Nigeria. If I describe it as national embarrassment, but then how did we not flag all of the rights? How did we achieve this? I asked him a question about the fact that this man was declared wanted even by Interpol at some point. He's coming back into the country. Even at that level, should have flagged some red, let alone letting him back into the civil service.
Well, I think he rightly pointed out that there is a moral problem here. Let us ask ourselves a question. Why is it that civil servants always want to remain on seat? Let's even assume that the sum of 44 billion naira was missing. Let's assume he was culpable for the loss of that 44 billion naira. Why would a man want to go back to the civil service with that kind of money in his account?
700 billion naira that you're talking about.
44 billion naira was supposed to have been missing under his watch. Now, if he actually had the 44 billion naira to himself, why would he want to go back to the position of a director in the Federal Civil Service? how much would be his total expected pay from the time of resumption to his retirement age, plus his gratuity?
You think that's a question we should ask?
That's the question we should ask. Which means that there are some beneficiaries of that 44 billion naira. Again, I want to look at it from the point of view that the Minister for Interior was also a former Chief of Army Staff. The former Chiefs of Army Staff were indicted in the Dasuki scandal. And he was said to have repaid the money that was wrongly given to him. Now, when you receive bribe, we know that all illegally collected monies are paid in tranches. And anybody who collects illegal money spends it nearly immediately. Was he saving it for an immediate refund when asked to, as a condition precedent to his assuming the post of a minister? Could he have been a beneficiary of some of the proceeds of the missing money? That is another angle we have to look at it from.
But let's look at the position of the head of service of the Federation here. Our own position seems very, very, very dicey. I mean, very difficult one. She released a statement yesterday saying the letter reinstating Alhaji Abdul Rashid Maina never emanated from her office. She has tried to distance herself from this particular scandal. And just a day before then, the Minister Abdurrahman Dambazao, the Minister of Interior, had also tried to distance himself from this particular matter. And the response of the HOS yesterday was actually to respond to that. I mean, how do we paint the picture? Is it possible to bring that man back into office without the connivance of the HOS?
In fact, that is what I find very intriguing. Between the HOS and the Minister of Internal Affairs, somebody is definitely lying. Because if he was recommended to sit for promotion, because there was a letter that was in circulation yesterday, signed by somebody on behalf of the chairman of the Civil Service Commission. The Civil Service Commission statutorily should, I think, report to the office of the head of service. Now, this particular letter quoted a letter emanating from the office of the Attorney General. Maina could not have gone to the Ministry of Internal Affairs on his own. There must have been somebody who was acting in the position of the director of admin where he has gone to resume. If there was nobody who was acting in that capacity, how could he have gone there to resume? It means that either by default or by collusion, the head of service should also be held responsible, because she should have oversight functions over the office of the Civil Service Commission.
Well, there's an online newspaper, The Cable, doing a follow-up as also an exclusive really for them, releasing some documents this morning that I can't cite before me here. There's a letter from the Federal Civil Service Commission with a title reinstatement into Alhaji Abdul Rashid Abdullahi Maina, Deputy Director Administration, SDL 16. That letter was dated 18th September 2017. And then there was another letter, from the Ministry of Interior, signed by the Deputy Director, Permanent Secretary's Office, Alayhu A. Bala, also on that particular matter, directed to the office of the head of the Civil Service of the Federation. In all of this, I mean, would you say that the head of service was twisted, by political forces, the Minister of Interior, and also they were saying that they were acting on legal advice from the office of the Attorney General of the Federation? Would you say these political office holders were the ones who twisted the head of service into reinstating him?
If the head of service was untwisted, it means she had compromised somewhere to be untwisted. A principled head of service would have refused to be untwisted. I would have rather made this thing public for debate. It would not have been easy to get her sacked without any controversy arising therefrom. So definitely, if she had been untwisted, she must have subjected herself to a position that could have allowed her to have been untwisted. And the letter she released yesterday did not suggest that she was untwisted. She claimed total ignorance. In fact, some newspapers captioned it that Dambazao lied. So if she was bold enough to have issued that kind of statement, and even when categorically said that the minister lied, she could have also categorically stated that I was twisted.
Well, interested. We will bring on Justice Olamide Oloyede to join us on the program shortly to look at this. But then, in moving forward, what does this say about the fight against corruption? It is a huge problem for us as a nation, and Nigerians voted for the president to do well to tackle this particular one headlong. But then in the last few months, issues like this, and like you had, Mr. Nathaniel Oke saying the other time that this seems to be, you said that earlier, that this seems to be the height of it. How does this affect the war against corruption moving forward?
I have always told people that anybody who believed in the anti-corruption war was simply being hypocritical, not being Nigerian. Because if you look at it, most of the people who have been prosecuted up till date diligently are from a particular section of the country. Others have been glossed over. We have the case of the SGF still there. We have the case of even the chief of staff and the MTF $500 million scandal. What has been the resolution so far? The only cases we hear consistently are those of Femi and Olisametu. Were they the only beneficiaries of the graft that was supposed to have been there in the Jonathan era? Definitely not. Why is it that it's only Southerners that are being pursued? So the anti-corruption war has taken a definite sectional trajectory.
And then, would you say that the AGF should not stay in office anymore, if there are conflicts between him? But then, just before you answer that question, we have Justice Olamide Oloyede, the retired justice, joining us as a teacher of law, also joining us on the program this morning. Thank you so much for joining us on Franklin this morning, ma.
Good morning, Mr. Olanipekun. Good morning, Rave FM. And I say a very blessed morning to everybody listening to us at home.
Thank you very much. Well, this issue about the reinstatement into service of Alhaji Abdulrasheed Maina is generating ripples. It's such a scandal that the whole country has lambasted the federal government for. Looking at the issues, how embarrassing can it be for a country like ours fighting corruption?
Well, I'll say that going by the history and antecedent of this government, with corruption, Nigerians should hardly be surprised. I personally am not surprised, although I must confess and admit that I am sad and heartbroken. I would like to look at this issue, this minor issue, from two angles, from the legal perspective and the moral perspective. Let's take the legal perspective first. Since some people insist that morality is subjective and must be expunged from law, although I belong to a contrary school of thought. Minor, we all were here when the scandal broke about a civil servant who was entrusted with the welfare, pensions of fellow civil servants. And there was this issue of this debate about whether he made away with 100 million or not. Well, our law says that an accused person must be presumed innocent until proven guilty. So I'm not going to conclude that he's guilty. However, that he refused to follow due process to prove that innocent of the allegations. He took.
Or the line. Hello. Okay, well, the line went there. She's actually in transit. We hope that we can, reconnect again to get via. I would have loved to ask, especially the angle where some lawyers are raising about the legality of the president really asking for the immediate sack of Alhaji Abdulrasheed Maina. Some people believe that it's actually his aides who perpetrated this particular act that should be asked to go, alongside not just Alhaji Abdulrasheed Maina, not just him alone, that other people like the Minister of Interior, the AGF, and maybe other people involved also should be asked to go. Do you agree to such insinuations also?
I think it will not happen. They should go, but I know it will not happen in this country. They will never be asked to go. Because it appears as if the president, there was the last time I came here, we were talking of this government treating certain people within the executive with deodorants and outside the executive with insecticides. The people we have mentioned so far, we know that they are very strong pillars of the Buhari administration. The Attorney General, even at a point, was more or less in a contest for power with the Vice President in the absence of the President. What gave him the guts? So he's not likely to go. As usual, they will push it on to other people. But definitely, this President and his aides never take responsibility for inactions.
Well, and what's the place of the president in all of this? Many people have tried to shield him away from, the condemnations trailing this particular scandal, saying, well, he acted right. He may not have been aware. Well, we have just Oloyede back on the line. Thank you. You are making, a point at that time about the moral side of this issue. Hello?
Due process of law in order to exonerate himself of the allegations, and thus became a fugitive under Nigerian law. What is flabbergasting, however, is the manner in which he was brought back into the federal civil service. And I don't subscribe to the view being spread by several that the head of service of the federation is innocent simply because she refused to discharge her responsibility. What she did is a crime of omission. She is there to protect us. Nigeria put her in office to protect us. This
network really terrible there, but it would have been fine for us really to actually look at the legal side, especially as regards the legality of the action. Many people looking at that, saying let Abdul Rashid Maina go, saying why not let's follow due process in that. You say you don't believe that these that the other fellows, the other actors in this particular scandal were made to go. That any heads will roll in this particular one. But could we just expect something unusual this time?
Nothing unusual is going to happen, because in the case of Magu, the office of the Attorney General was working at cross purposes with the EFCC. I don't know how it is at this particular point that the Attorney General is going to take responsibility for what he has done. He will still remain there. That is how we roll in Nigeria.
And looking at these, how does these, what impact will these have on the fight against corruption in the long term? This is the major project of this administration, and it has suffered some setbacks in some areas, but it's also received commendations in many quarters as having the boldness to tackle this particular scourge headlong. How would these affect these, in the long term, if not tackled effectively?
I think it might positively affect the war in the long term, because let's forget the fact that the president doesn't have the right to actually sack him, but he has sacked him, at least to all intents and purposes. Now, he has tried to redeem some of his image by doing that. However, he has done the right thing wrongly. We might get it right, because henceforth, since he knows that people are now asking him to pay attention to minor details, he might be forced to take actions much more faster in future.
But for those trying to drag the president into this, I'm saying this, as it were, it seems to be even a purely civil service matter. The president may not be aware in the first place, because some people are trying to drag the president into this, saying he's also culpable here. Do you see it in that light? They're saying, well, this definitely happens under him. He will only get to know at this stage. Do you think he should have been aware before now?
44 billion naira is too too much not to be brought to the attention of the president.
But that was before he became president. This case is dragged on from 2010.
The 44 billion naira is still outstanding. To all intents and purposes, like we rightly discussed earlier, Mena was declared a fugitive. Mena was declared wanted. So, if anything at all, the Minister of Foreign Affairs is supposed to have been told. The Minister for Foreign Internal Affairs is supposed to be aware of the fact that he left this country, came back. The security agencies are also implicated. How did he come back to the country? Is it only now that they realize he has a $2 billion house? Is it $2 million property in Abuja? Where was the EFCC before then? The EFCC knew or was supposed to have known that he was in town. I mean, for those whose monies were not discovered outrightly or whose buildings were not known, they were raided. This is a building that did not move. They didn't know he was there, only for him to be arrested now. I mean, everybody here is guilty.
So, I mean, you think even the EFCC is acting like it's medicine after death?
It's medicine after death because the property was there. He didn't just buy the property from what you have read. The property was bought a long time ago. They should have known when he moved into the property. They should have known the status of the property. Was it sold, rented out, leased out? Who is the present occupant of that building? If you had declared this man wanted, as at the time you took possession of his building, you are supposed to have known. Why did you have to wait for the president to say he has sacked him before you now go and raid his house? There are a lot of things that we still don't know.
And all of this, because if you read through, piecing all of this information together, you discover that these moves to bring him back into office are culminated in him being posted to the Ministry of Interior on the 18th of September. Actually started earlier in the year, and April was when we had the first memo originating from the Attorney General's office, and then you had the senior staff council at the Ministry of Interior headed by the minister himself, also sitting on that deliberation. It seems that this is, a very high-wired, high-powered, conspiracy to get this done. And all of that, from that time in April to right now in October, you think that the president or his handlers shouldn't have been able to pick something up to know that something like this is flagging red?
You have just answered the question. They must have flagged it. But somebody decided that Nigerians had very short memory and were going to forget about it. And that nobody is going to pay attention to the fact that Mena has resumed. There was even something on the social media about him campaigning to be governor of a particular state. There were posters. Nobody said anything. Who has oversight functions over the EFCC? Who has oversight functions? I want to assume that his office
of the Attorney General.
Of the Attorney General. So, as at the time these moves have been made to reinstate him, he's supposed to have told the agencies under him that it could be a bait to get him back and you get him arrested, but not to the point of him assuming duties. So, like you rightly said, did you answer the question yourself that there is high-level conspiracy in the whole matter? And I still don't know the role Mena wants to go and play in the Ministry of Internal Affairs, other than to redeem his image. Because a civil servant who owns a $2 million mansion actually does not need that job. Seriously speaking. What do I need that job for? $2 million is about $500 million naira, if not more. So what does he want to get in the civil service? Either to perpetrate more fraud, or to cause more havoc, or to cover up the tracks of certain people. If it's just to serve Nigeria, I don't think he really has any business being there. So,
and you're a journalist. I'm looking at this from another perspective. Premium Times, the medium that broke these, and other media houses following up on this story have been commended for a long while. The media has gotten a lot of bashing, living up to expectation in some quarters over this one. As a journalist, do you feel elated about this particular one, bringing this to public attention?
Definitely, I'm elated. Definitely, Nigerian journalists have started playing the role they are supposed to play as watchdogs. Trying to do investigation, not because most of the journalists we have these days rely on bulletins and handouts from government functionaries. But for a media house to go out and get the story out is highly commendable. And the journalists who actually got this story should be commended.
All right, well, let's open the phone lines. We've been looking at, the unfortunate reinstatement of Abdullah Rashid Maina. Well, though in the eyes of the law, the man is not guilty, but many analysts have been saying from a moral perspective, from an ethical standpoint, these does not just, look right. And it's been wide condemnations from different quarters. The president himself yesterday had to order an immediate sack of the man reinstated, and then also asking that he get a report get to its table just before the close of work yesterday. That's some few hours, from when he issued that particular statement. We open the phone lines for you now to get a hang of what you make of this particular scenario, and then, how you suggest we should move on to strengthen the war against corruption, and how you suggest that the president should handle this particular matter going forward.
You can now join the conversation by calling 0703-175-9177, 0703-175-9177, and 0902-427-3808. You can equally make use of our social media platforms. For WhatsApp, 0703-175-9173, 0703-175-9173. Tweet at us at Rave917FM, and Facebook is Rave917FM. Do remember to turn down the volume on your radio set or move away from it. And please, let's keep our comments civil. Thank you.
All right, we have a first call on the line. Hello, good morning. Please do call back. Hello, good morning. That dropped as well. Hello, good morning.
Good morning. My name is Femi. I'm calling from Onward.
Mr. Lawal, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, you see, it's unfortunate. The more we, the masses, the poor people in Nigeria, the more we want things to change, more things remain. The miners issue started under a president. And it was even reported that was going about with some security, that even our security were even intimidated. Nobody could arrest him. Now another man is there as our president. And somebody made an insinuation there that if it is the opposition, that it seems that they do the investigation and the prosecution diligently. I beg to disagree. Ask me tell me just a person, just one of the looters that this present government has been able to prosecute in Nigeria. None. All we hear is that somebody is going to court tomorrow, somebody is not going tomorrow. Nobody, they are not doing. I think if we have any headway with the fight against corruption in this country, that man, our AGF will have to go, as some other people, before we make any headway. If that man remains, unfortunately, we are not going to make any headway. He is grossly incompetent and is not capable of the office he's holding. All the way for us.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lawal. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Emmanuel from Malaysia. Good morning.
Thank you, Mr. Emmanuel.
Yeah. I'm not surprised on this scenario on ground. And this is what you get with an organized government who has, abused and defy federal character to bring on sectional leaders around there who believe they are born to rule this country. Apparently, I believe the best thing to do now, I know it will never be swept under the carpet. This is the man that swallowed money of sweat of many Nigerians. Yes, the next thing I just want the federal government to do, to fight this thing politically, is immediate arrest of these people, and even all the big men involved to be prosecuted also. Good morning.
Thank you very much. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
What's your name? Where are you calling from?
It is Mr. Abiola calling from Oshogo.
Thank you, Mr. Abiola.
Hello, please, what I want to just contribute to this program this morning is that I could say that for Mr. President to attack mine is just to deceive us. Where is Babaji Lawa? That was the way they used to remove him from office. The outcome of the whatever they set up there was still there. Nothing was done about it. Now, Babachir Lawal is there enjoying himself. Why are we deceiving ourselves? If they have sacked Mana, does that one does not the right thing to do. Babachir Lawal has never answered a single question from EFCC up to now. God will save us in this country. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Hello, good morning.
Hello.
What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Yeah, my name is Ayodele. I am calling from Edo.
Thank you very much for joining us.
There are so many things that are very wrong around us. And this is a particular case that one feels very sad about. Why? Now, who originated the memo to AGA? That is one question we need to. Because Maina wouldn't have written, he has been running here and there. So somebody must have originated that memo. The presidency needs to tell us. Then two, is it the president only acted in a jittery way? He doesn't need to have directly say go and suspend him. There are so many people to suspend, including the AGA, including the head of service, so many people. So we are I'm not so happy, and I know many Nigerians stand. And I agree with the senior advocate that the option is political, it's sectional. Good morning.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning, Mr. Femi, Bode from Ife.
Thank you, Mr. Bode.
See, Mr. Femi, I think we have to start to look at the campaign fund of Mr. President, because we have to be very careful in this country. If the Attorney General still remains as the number one law officer of this country and is instrumental in the restatement of Mina, I think the money that was missing when Mina was the pension boss was part of the money that funded Mr. President's election. Honestly, we have to look from that perspective. Things are not getting right in this country. I can you imagine Mina is back into the federal civil service. Even the so-called head of the federal civil service, that woman, she can't say she does not know anything about it.
All right. Thank you very much. Let's take some messages on WhatsApp. Good morning out there. For the 18th time, I would still say that these governments fight against corruption is nothing but sheer noise. It is monumental fraud and embarrassment to the general populace of this country. How on earth could Mina be reinstated? Oh, it's nothing but retrogression. That's Chegwama Wumi. Thank you very much. Mr. Law says, I think Mr. President has taken a needful action about Mina, but the issue is still that President Muhammadu Buhari should be very careful of those he's working with. Most of these people have caused national embarrassment in this country. Lastly, the question I want to ask Mr. Care is that if he were to stand for Mina at the court of law, what will be his stand on this case? And Yemi is saying, I said long before now that this administration is too secretive. Mina's case is just one out of the thousands of internal corruption that is going on. What about many that we don't know? Thank you very much. And Amobi from it, I saying good morning. Time without numbers, one will not know that this government fighting corruption is one-sided. Imagine a situation where many of the president's people were alleged of corruption, but up till today, nothing has been done. Only God will judge. Adeleke Latif from Oshobo saying, I really appreciate your radio station for enlightened general public on real issues, and appreciate all the guests for saying the truth, nothing but the truth. Our president working within his enemy, not opposition enemy. Seems that they don't have a common direction. Thank you very much. That's Adeleke Latif. And this last message is from Sunday from Ife saying, good morning. This scenario has really brought an open disgrace to this nation at large. And for EFCC and DSS, they are controlled by the president. And that was why no action was taken until the president sacked Mina. Thank you very much. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
What's your name? Where are you calling from?
I am Adeolu from Oshobo.
Thank you, Mr. Adeolu.
Good morning. Now, the truth must be said that a corrupt government cannot fight corrupt people. It is now very, very clear that this government is corrupt, more than even the government that is succeeded. Something must be done about it. We are tired of hearing about this kind of story. The government will come up and do something tangible that will make Nigerians happy, at least for the fourth time since 2015.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Thank you for joining us. What's the name where you're calling from?
Prince, okay. I think we're from Hiba.
Thank you, Prince. Okay.
When you experience disappointment, you are to turn it into will.
I'm afraid you may have to call back, Prince. Okay. Prince Adepoju Atomatele from Ilarogo, right? At the inception of this administration, the presidential spokesman, Femi Additional, said a war against looters would be lethal. Maina's case would be one of the test cases Nigerians are waiting. Thank you very much. And Daniel Delight from Oshogo is saying about Maina, I'd say there is no way so the top level federal appointment to be made without a presidential nod. Obviously, the president played to the gallery of the many corrupt individuals he surrounds himself with. For the president to have his hands clean on these, many heads must roll. But can he touch his own men? That's the question he's asking. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning. I am Adeshola from Oshogo.
Thank you, Mr. Adeshola.
Yeah, this minor issue. This man has been coming in and out from the country since 2015. And EFCC knows, the DSS knows, the Customs and Immigration, they know he has been coming in through the airport. Every one of them knew that this man is on wanted list, and none of them has been. They were unable to arrest him because he used part of the 44 billion naira that he stole to finance to finance the election of this Mr. President. They all know. They are just lying.
Well, Mr. Adeshola, those are allegations.
They are all aware of the issue. They are all aware.
All right.
Even Mr. President knows.
Well, thank you very much. But those are allegations. You never know. Even if Mr. President, there's no evidence to say that he was part of the financiers of the president's campaign. Let's take some other messages also. Okay, another call. Okay, hello, good morning. Hello, good morning. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
I know Mr. Akode from Iwo.
Thank you, Mr. Akode.
You see, those that compromise in the resettlement of Maina, they are guilty as Maina himself. I hope they will not be spared as the president is dragging foot on the issue of Babatilawa. God bless Nigeria.
God bless you too. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, this is Mr. Olatoji Buhari from Ilobu.
Thank you, Mr. Buhari.
I'm always surprised the way people always contribute at times. I see some of these people talking had not worked in the secretariat before, or they have not worked with federal establishment. Maina has people, he has sympathizers. On what coming, even if somebody is a terrorist in this country, we still have some people who will be sympathetic to his cause. And why people didn't talk about all the control measures that were in place when Maina was working during Goodluck Jonathan era? Why did he commit so much atrocity during that time? Why was he not apprehended during Jonathan period? The man now came back now using his own connection to come back. People are now complaining. What of the Jonathan era? Thank you. Good morning.
Thank you very much. Before we get back to our guest, one more call, then we'll return. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Femi. This is Idris calling from Ibadan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Idris.
Yeah, we love receiving ourselves in this country. My question is, what has happened to the case of the SDF and the DGNIA since the arrival of Mr. President from his protracted medical vacation? Nothing has happened. And my brother, for my money, nothing will happen. Nigeria will help it.
Thank you very much. Well, these, I'm sure, will not go away for a long time. Mr. Moyi will agree with me. Many people are reacting. In fact, strong editorials from many of Nigerian newspapers today. The title of Punch editorial this morning is "Maina, the Audacity of Corruption," and then that paper is frowning on how someone with such huge baggage could be restated through the back door and given double promotion from assistant director to director, and then even made to be in charge of discipline and the welfare of other civil servants, as director of human resources. But I don't think this will go anywhere. Let me just take your final remarks on the show this morning, Mr. Monier.
Well, I just want to correct an impression that the last speaker created, that it happened during the era of Goodluck Jonathan. Elections took place in 2015. Maina became a fugitive in 2013, which means he was hounded out of this country by the Goodluck Jonathan administration. Anyway, whatever is bad, we should all join hands together to eliminate the problems bedeviling Nigeria and its civil service.
Thank you very much for joining us this morning. Mr. Emmanuel Moye is a journalist, a publisher, a writer, and also a public affairs analyst. Joining us on the program this morning on Front. We appreciate you coming on the program. All right, we spoke earlier on to Mr. Nathaniel Oke, who is a senior advocate of Nigeria, joining us live on the line also to look at this particular matter. And also we spoke as well to Justice Olamide Oloyede to look at these also. Well, we thank you for your time, for listening to Rave 91.7 for being part of Frank Talk. This issue is ongoing, and there is the possibility of us revisiting it anytime soon, especially from another perspective. If we could get someone really from the civil service, especially at the federal level, who understanding in how things work and look at how this might have been possible. But then we thank you so much for being a part of our world. On behalf of the team and executive producer Femi Adefila, my name is Femi Olanipekun. We're asking you to have a great Tuesday. Bye-bye.
Imagine the sun without heat. Imagine water without wetness. Imagine the sky without the stars. Imagine movement without motion. Imagine Oshobo without Aro. Imagine Inyo without Eforiro. Imagine ocean without rain. Just imagine. Rave 91.7 FM would define every moment.